Hey guys, and welcome to another AudioFabric production tutorial. My name is Saragn, and today I'm going to be covering the quite often misunderstood subject of mid-side processing. Now, mid-side processing is sometimes referred to as sum and difference processing. If you're in the business of producing vinyl, then it can also be known as lateral and vertical processing. But for the most part, we just call it mid-side processing. So a subscriber to my YouTube channel asked me to please do a tutorial on mid-side processing, so I thought it is a useful topic to discuss, as guys tend to avoid it due to its apparent complexity. So what is mid-side processing? Well, very simply, mid-side processing is the process of disjointing a stereo signal into two separate components. Those components aptly named mid and side, obviously. The mid channel represents that part of the signal that is equal to both the left and the right channels, so your mono information. And the side channel represents that part of the signal that differs between the left and the right channel. So this is why mid-side processing often gets referred to as sum and difference processing, because the mid channel refers to the summed signal, i.e. the left and the right, which, as I said, means mono. Or in other words, that which is identical to both the left and the right channel, and the side channel refers to the difference between the left and the right channel. So I hope that makes sense. So again, real quick, mid-side processing is the process of disjointing or splitting a stereo signal into two separate components, namely mid and side. So let's get into this whole mid-side thing and see what it's all about. So to start, what I've prepared here is a piece of music from one of my upcoming singles. I keep on getting that word wrong. It's just a short snippet. It's not a really long piece, so we don't need a lot of music for this example. I've duplicated it twice so that I have 3 copies of the same audio, and the reason for this is that there are multiple ways in which we can do mid-side processing, and I'm going to show you each of them. So to demonstrate what mid-side processing is, let's listen to each of the disjointed elements in isolation. So first we do the mid, and then we can do the side channel. So as I always remind you, this may be quite loud, so just check and adjust accordingly. If you can hear crickets in the background, it's because it's a warm summer's night and my balcony door and windows are open and the bugs are going nuts. So bear with me please. Also, you may want to use headphones, because if you're listening on a mobile phone or indeed a device with a mono output, then some of the audio playing back here won't be heard, so headphones or earphones are best. So to demonstrate this, I've put basically I put an EQ8 on this first channel, on this first track rather. So let's just listen to this real quick. Okay, I use EQ8 because it's Ableton Live's native EQ plugin. So I put that on the first track in this project. So what we need to do here is we need to change the mode to mid-side, or MS, which obviously stands for mid-side. Okay. Now select from this edit menu over here. We need to change the channel you would like to affect to S. Okay, so there it's on S now, and basically what this means is that we're now affecting the side channel. So we need to enable a high pass filter or low cut filter, whatever you prefer calling it, over here, and then we sweep the frequency all the way to its max, which I think is 22 kilohertz if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so welcome to the world of mono, because if I play this back to you now, hold on. What you're hearing now is only the so it's basically you've created a mono channel here, or a mono output. Okay, so let's change that back now and do the same with the mid channel. So restore that back to what it was, switch that off, change the edit mode to M. Okay, then enable a high pass filter again and sweep the frequency all the way to its max again. Now basically what you're hearing is the sides only. So in other words, only the information that is different between the left and the right channel. It may sound a little wide and incomprehensible without the mid channel, which is perfectly normal. So if you'd like to get a better view of the same sides signal, then add a utility plugin. So let's quickly just open my browser here, add a utility plugin, close the browser so I've got more screen real estate, and then change the phase of the left or right channel. So let's play this back real quick. Alright, so what we're hearing now is the result of that in a mono fashion, so it's a little easier to listen to. Okay, so as I said, this will mono that stereo bit that you're hearing. It should be easier to dissect now. So if you take music that you like listening to and you load it into Ableton and do this process, you'll learn a lot more about not only the difference between summed audio and the sides of an audio signal, but you'll also learn how professionals EQ their music. So you can then apply the same things to your own mixes. Take, like, for instance, this track of mine. In mono, the lead disappears a little bit. So if I can give you an example, let's restore that. Actually, let's keep that right there. We delete this, and we just put the whole thing in mono. So we remove the phase, and we just go with the stereo width. And if we play this back, okay, that lead doesn't pop through all that well. My lead disappears somewhat, and to be honest, that's an oversight on my part, because the truth is the track is not likely to be listened to on Auntie Bake-It-All's shitty little kitchen radio player while she's mashing away at the Black Forest cake that she made at lunchtime. So with that said, mono and mix referencing in mono is beyond the scope of this tutorial, so I'll end my blurb on that right here. Anyway, so the practical use of mid-side processing is probably tenfold. I mean, if you have a creative brain and you use a DAW like Ableton Live, there is no end to the things that you can do with it. And especially if you start getting creative with the effect racks and racks within racks, for instance. So remember, with Ableton Live, you're limited to your own imagination. Immediately though, setting your bass frequencies to mono is probably a good reason to start using mid-side processing. So while I don't do this across my entire mix, I would use it on a lead or a pluck or a pad or something that you need the low frequencies to be present. If you do this across the entire mix, then you're probably going to lose some important stereo information, which will mess with the stereo image. Okay, so this is probably best to apply this over groups of tracks or individual tracks. So groups, like if you have a couple of layers of leads and pads and stuff, and you want to sort of split the mid and side frequencies, then group them together and do that. You can do the same for percussion stuff. Or indeed individual tracks. But then again, do as you please, experiment and discover for yourself what works best for you. So let's look at my bassy lead patch that I have over here. So I just want to kill that and bring this one alive. Let's listen to this real quick. Alright, now I've got no processing on here. I've got an EQ8 and I've got a utility, but nothing has changed. I've made no settings changes here. So pretty much this is as standard as it gets. So this is just a standard preset from a sound bank on Silent. So depending on the song that you're making, you might find this useful, this sort of sound. I personally would cut the low frequencies out of this one, but if say it's a house tune and your bass line is not your typical 4 to the floor configuration, then having the low end present in this sort of sound may be useful. So to do this, you can do it two ways. First way is, and this is probably the easiest, you can mono the entire thing by just using the utility plugin from Ableton Live to reduce your stereo width. So if we look here, let's just change this stereo width selector all the way down to 0. Alright, what we've done now is we've basically created a completely mono version of that same bass sound. Okay, the problem with doing it this way is that you lose all of the stereo information. Okay, and there might be some of the stereo information that we actually want to play back to us. We might want some of that stereo information to actually be there, just not all of it. And this is where the second way comes in useful. So I will just switch that bad boy off for the moment. So that should restore some of the stereo information as it was before. So we place an EQ8 on the bass lead and repeat exactly what we did at the start. So enable the sides feature. enable the sides feature, yes. Right, so sides is highlighted. With the high pass filter selector enabled, and cut out some of the sides of the low frequency information up to about, I don't know, 750 Hertz probably. Let's say between 600 and 800. So let's move this up. Let's start with 750 and see what it sounds like. Okay. You will hear that we lose some of that nice stereo width. So let me play this back to you. Okay. But we can retain some of it, and we can actually hear what we are left with by enabling audition mode in the EQ8. So click on the little headphone icon over here, and then select the filter dot or the breakpoint, and you'll basically hear what's left. So if we click on this real quick and we play it, you can now hear what we're left with. If I let go, the original sound is restored. Okay, so I'm basically highlighting the sound, or rather what is left in that sound. So it's quite useful using this auditioning feature. So with this, you can properly solo the bassy element in your song, but you can remove some of the stereo mud by getting rid of some of that stereo low frequency and have at least some of that width remain in the lead. You know, maybe we want to go up to 800 even. So let's play that back. Alright. So basically, this is a good example of how you can set your stereo width in your sides channel and control some of the high or the lower end of that frequency spectrum without affecting the actual mono frequency. Now, another side note to this is the fact that your brain isn't really going to know the difference anyway in a club environment, because most club systems have mono bass response anyway, and the human brain is not exactly gifted at trying to work out where low frequency sound is coming from. We're much better at identifying location information of a sound. The higher up the spectrum the sound goes, but you know, there is a use for it. So another use would be to create space and air in your track. So let's go to my space, air and tricks track that I've created here. Let's kill that one, bring this one back into life. And what I've done here is I've created a sort of a mid-side effect rack. Okay, let me just take that off. I'll show you now what that was all about. So very simply, if I delete this and I start again, let me open my browser. Let me put a utility plugin on here. If I group it by right clicking on it and say group, if I then click on show chains list and click on the first chain and duplicate, so right click, duplicate. Now rename these two chains to mid and side. So top one, we'll rename that, we'll call that mid. This bottom one over here, we'll rename that and call that one side. Okay, so we then change the stereo width of the mid chain to 0. So in our stereo width selector over here, we drop that down to 0. So we've basically made the input that's coming into this effect rack, or this chain of the effect rack, we've made that mono. And in the same way, we make the same edit to the sides chain, but we increase the stereo width to 200. So basically the mid channel is now, or the mid chain is playing only the mono information of the stereo signal that's coming into this effect rack, and the side chain is only playing the stereo information that is coming into this effects rack. So what you've essentially done now is you've split the mid channel apart from the sides channel, except for one small detail. It's not exactly mid-side processing, because you still have the left and right channel information existing in both of these chains. So if you go back to our first example where we disjointed the mid from the side channel using the EQ8, there we had only the left and right channel information of that signal, and then in the second channel, the sides channel, we had only the sides, which, as we remember, is the difference between the left and the right channel. So here we have two chains, both with all of the original signal existing. So in your sides channel, if we boost your low mids slightly, so let me just put in a EQ8 here onto that sides channel. If I boost the low mids, so we're talking between like 250 to 500 hertz roughly, around about there. Enable that, boost that by, I don't know, 2 or 3 decibels. And we can put maybe a high shelf filter on the high frequencies. So let's do that real quick. Enable that. Anywhere from 6 kilohertz and upwards. 6K is usually where harsh frequencies and sibilance starts to cause shit. So you know, you can control that if your stereo signal is sounding a little bit harsh, or you hear harshness and you want to remove it, but you don't want to affect the mid channel of the audio signal. So in this case, let's just put it up to about, I don't know, 6 up to 10. Let's try 10 and boost that by about 5 or 6 dB. Alright, now we can solo this and listen to what it sounds like. If I switch that off and I A-B them the whole time, listen to the difference. Okay. If I put them together and I audition them together and now switch off the rack, listen to the difference. It's very subtle, but there is a change, and this is how you can start controlling your channels individually. And again, you can audition these dots as I showed you earlier, just to get an idea of what all of that sounds like. And basically what you've done here is you've created something unique in terms of the overall sound of your audio signal, but you've left the middle alone. So you've not affected the entire song, you've just affected the sides. It's pretty clever, don't you think? And then another use would be to get creative with the stereo signal in a way that may be unconventional to the standard ways of making music. So for instance, let's get creative with maybe some delay in the stereo field without affecting the middle. So I'm going to switch that off real quick. I didn't put anything on there, did I? No, I didn't. Okay, so let's remove that. Let's put a simple delay on here. And that gives interesting results. So we put a simple delay on the side channel. Okay, let's just solo that for the moment. Change it down to about 30%, and let's listen to the sound effect that, or the effect that gives us. Alright, now if I play those two together, can you hear how from a stereo channel perspective it's given like a little bit more like depth, or a little bit more of an interesting sound to the stereo image without affecting the thing as a whole, without affecting the entire track. Don't overdo it here, because as these effects are pretty gentle anyway, at least as far as the amount of signal that they are affecting. Another thing to remember is the fact that your sides channel here, or your sides chain here, has the same left and right channel information present in the signal info as you find in the mid channel chain. So remember, as I said before, it's not true mid-side. The difference here is that the side channel chain's left and right signal now has opposite polarity. So if you put any audio effect on this chain now, where that effect sums the input into a mono signal, then you're not going to have any effect at all. So for instance, if I put like let me switch that off and put a reverb on here. onto that same channel. I can put the reverb at 100, no, not 100%, because it's going to cancel out. Let's say at about 70%. You'd expect, let's put like a 20-second decay time on this thing. You're not going to hear anything. You see? Because what this does is it sums the input into mono, and because it's not a stereo processor, you're going to sit with a problem. So I can do the same thing with a ping pong delay. So let's put a ping pong delay on here. Same story. I can put it fairly high up. You're not really going to have any difference. So with a simple delay, it works quite well. So that's some interesting creative tricks that you can do with mid-side processing. We can create a bit of space in our stereo image, a bit of air in our stereo image. But experiment and see what you can come up with, because ultimately this is the power of Ableton Live, which is why I use this application. And then finally, some of you may not like the native Ableton Live tools, so as a bonus I thought I'd take you through the same process but with another well-known plugin from FabFilter called ProQ. So let me just kill that one, make this one alive, go to this channel over here. So with the ProQ enabled, let's just open this plugin, close the browser, double click anywhere, create yourself a filter dot, or a breakpoint, whatever you want to call it. Change the channel mode to mid-side if it isn't already. It probably starts off as you install it, or as you run it on your track. It'll probably say left and right to begin with, but if not, then just leave it at mid-side. If it is left and right, then change it to mid-side. Okay, if you click on, well, first we need to decide which side we want to listen to. So in this case we can choose the mid channel that we want to hear. If we click on the output over here, we now have the option to pan into whichever of the signals that we want to listen to. So if we pan all the way left in this outer ring, we're basically going to be hearing only the mid channel, so everything in mono. And if I change it all the way to the other side, then we'll be hearing everything in the stereo image only. Okay, so let's put that back to the middle. So as I said, you'll hear only the bits and pieces that are coming out of the sides channel. So effectively, putting it all the way to the left is the same as our very first example where we swept all the way to 22 kilohertz in the sides channel, causing only the mid channel to stay behind. Also in the same way as the utility has a stereo width feature, so does ProQ. With no bands enabled, if we select that and delete all of them, if we do all of that, we are basically creating a mono mix. And if we go all the way, this is the stereo width. So this acts as the same stereo width function of the utility. So to actually do mid-side processing here, on your breakpoint, we want to basically right-click it and say split. Okay. Then drag either the mid or side channel flag to where you need it to be, and Bob's your uncle. So let's put the mid over there, let's put the side over there, and Bob's your uncle. Now in the same way with the EQ8, you can also audition some of these things, so let's hear them quickly. Okay, same story here. Oh, sorry about that. That basically concludes using this little headphone icon, your ability to audition the sounds as far as how it's going to affect either your mid channel or your side channel. I prefer using the Ableton Live native plugins, but the result is mostly the same. So I think you'll agree, once you wrap your head around the mid-side processing, a whole new world of width awaits you. and you'll most likely start finding mid-side processing a lot more in all of your mixes. So we can now, going forward, if you want to think creatively, we can now start applying mid-side compression, mid-side saturation, mid-side expansion, and pretty much any sort of mid-side processing to our audio signals. And sometimes you will be very surprised with the results you get. And ultimately, this is what creates really warm and wide mixes that you hear in professionally produced tracks. So there you go, guys. I hope that was quite useful for you and has given you a newfound understanding of exactly what mid-side processing is, how it's done, and I've given you some examples of where you can use it. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as usual, all my social media and musical portal information is available with links in the information box below. So until next time, ciao for now.